let's talk about fear. It's an emotion every single one of us knows, right? It can feel primal, super uncomfortable, and let's be honest, sometimes it's just plain weird. So today, we're going to dive deep into one of the oldest, most powerful forces that's hardwired right into our brains. Okay, so picture this. You're in bed, it's late, you're just about to drift off. And bam, you hear a noise from the corner of the room. Instantly, your heart is pounding. You're wide awake. But why? Why does our body react so fast, way before our brain even knows what the noise was?
Well, it turns out the answer has nothing to do with what's actually in your room. It has everything to do with what might have been lurking in the bushes thousands and thousands of years ago. You see, fear isn't just some random feeling. It's an ancient, finely tuned survival instinct.
To really get it, let's just hop in a time machine. Imagine you're one of our prehistoric ancestors, out in the wild. All of a sudden, a bush starts rustling. Right there, in that split second, your brain has to make a choice, and it's a life or death one.
So, what do? Choice A, you casually stroll over to see what's up, maybe it's just the wind, or choice B, you just run. You don't think, you just bolt. Run first, ask questions later. The real question is, which one of those choices means you get to have kids who have kids?
Yeah, you are here right now listening to this because your ancestors were the ones who chose option B. The ones who stopped to investigate, well, they probably ended up as lunch for a saber-toothed tiger. We are literally the descendants of the paranoid ones. That jolt of panic, what we call the fight or flight response, that's their survival instinct passed down directly to you. Okay, so fear keeps us safe from tigers. Makes total sense. But if it's all about survival, then how on earth do you explain the fears that seem completely, well, irrational in our modern world? And this is where we get into the wild world of phobias. You know, those really extreme fears that just seem way out of proportion to the actual danger. The science behind them is pretty amazing. For example, a fear of spiders, arachnophobia. Yeah, that seems pretty logical. Some of them are poisonous, so having a built-in stay away signal is probably a good thing for survival. Same thing with a fear of heights, right? Our brains are pretty good at figuring out that falling from way up high is, bad, really bad. So that fear is understandable. But what about a fear of clowns? Or trypophobia, that intense gut-level fear of clusters of small holes? I mean, what possible survival advantage could there be in being scared of those things? It all comes down to our brain's love of patterns. And it really, really doesn't like it when those patterns are broken. A clown's face, for instance, has that frozen smile and those exaggerated features. Our brain tries to process it as a human face, but it can't, and that mismatch sends up a red flag. And those creepy clusters of holes? One theory is that they subconsciously remind our brain of the skin patterns on poisonous animals or diseased tissue, triggering an ancient alarm bell. But believe it or not, the science gets even weirder. What if I told you that specific fears aren't just learned? What if they can actually be passed down through your DNA?
So get this. Scientists did this incredible experiment. They took some mice and exposed them to the sweet smell of cherry blossoms. But at the exact same time, they gave them a little electric shock. The mice pretty quickly learned to be terrified of that smell. But here's the mind-blowing part. Their babies, and even their grandbabies, were also born with a natural fear of cherry blossoms, even though they had never ever received a shock. It's like the memory of that fear was somehow written into their genes.
I mean, just think about the possibilities here. Maybe some of your own anxieties that seem to come out of nowhere actually have these super ancient roots. That fear of public speaking you have, maybe it's a genetic echo from a distant ancestor who got kicked out of the tribe for saying the wrong thing. It's a pretty wild thought, right? Okay, so for starting to understand how fear gets created and maybe even inherited, that leads to the next big question. Can we do anything about it? Can we actually get rid of our fears?
And the answer is, yes, we can. It's through a process that's basically like re-recording over an old mixtape. With something like exposure therapy, you gently and safely confront what you're afraid of. If you have arachnophobia, you might start by just looking at a cartoon of a spider. By doing this, your brain experiences the scary thing without anything bad happening. And over time, you literally re-record that fear memory, replacing the panic with a new, neutral feeling. So this all leads us to this huge, kind of philosophical question.
Scientists are actually working on drugs that could, in theory, erase a fear memory almost instantly. But if we had a magic pill that could make us completely fearless, should we take it? To answer that, we can actually look at a real-life example. There's a super rare medical condition called Urbach-Wiethe disease. It damages the amygdala, which is basically the brain's fear headquarters. People with this condition literally cannot feel fear. Now, that might sound like the ultimate superpower, but the reality is anything but. Let me paint you a picture. Most of us see a dark, sketchy-looking alley at night, and our fear system kicks in. We feel that caution, and we find a different, safer way to go. A person without fear feels nothing. They see the same alley, feel zero alarm bells, and might walk straight into a dangerous situation, completely unaware of the threat. And that really gets to the core of it all. Without fear, we lose our ability to detect danger. It's our built-in alarm system, our internal guide for navigating a world that has real threats. Taking that away is a much, much bigger problem than the fear itself.
So in the end, fear isn't a weakness. It's not some kind of design flaw we need to get rid of. It's actually a superpower. It's an ancient, powerful instinct that has kept our species alive for millions of years. It's what's keeping you alive today.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We know fear is essential for survival, but we also know some fears can really hold us back. If you had the power to safely and totally erase just one of your fears, what would it be? And why?